everybody. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to Across the Table. Pull up a chair, pop a squat. We're going to chat a little bit tonight about embracing grief and the continuity of life. So we'll get into that momentarily. But first, this is YouTube Live. It's new for me. I normally do Facebook Live, but a lot of my clients don't have Facebook. So I told them I would give this a shot on YouTube. Although I feel like I'm in a bigger space. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I'm giving it a shot, like I said. It's always good to try new things, they say, right? So if you're not familiar with me, my name is Julie. I am an ordained spiritualist minister. I am a professional psychic medium. I am a trance channel and blah, blah, blah. And I'm a lot of other things, but those are sort of my qualifications for what I'm doing here tonight with all of you. And I just started it last week. I did do a couple other live Facebooks. So probably about a month ago, I started this series because I just felt like it was time to step back into that a little bit more. There's just so much happening in the world around us, and so many people are scared and they're angry or they're hurt. And I wanted to just create a space where we could come and talk to each other and have conversations with each other. Hey, Sonam, welcome. So that out of that came Across the Table, because what I'm hoping this will be is just I like to get that lady in there. It's just us, creating community together, finding a way to walk through the difficult, challenging times together, holding space with and for each other. So, a lot of times, some of the stuff that's been coming up for us is a lot of fear, right, around what's happening. And that, when I look at fear and what that's connected to and all of that, there could be a number of fears, but there is this very baseline fear of losing something, someone, all of that, right? Relationships, whether it's through death, whether it's through something else. Many people have lost relationships just because of the political arena right now. And that's a very difficult thing for people to walk through. And of course, the biggest thing I believe that we face being human is mortality. Part of life is death, and part of death is life. I volunteered for quite some time at hospice. I've spent a lot of time with people who weren't just hospice people, but people that I loved and I knew, family and friends who were in the process of dying, and I sat with them, and even with the hospice people. Honestly, one of my favorite things to do was sit vigil in hospice, because it's such an intimate moment, right, in life. Is when we're being ready to be birthed into the other world, or whatever you want to call it, the summerland, the spirit world, the ancestral realm. Some people call it heaven. And many people have different beliefs about that. As a spiritualist, as someone who I wasn't brought up in spiritualism, I found my way to it because of many experiences that I had had in my life. And for me, it's the thing that fits the closest to my experiences and to my belief system and to my practices. So I want to dive in here a little bit and just talk about grief. And specifically, again, we all know that there's grief around a lot of things, right? But specifically tonight, because as a spiritualist minister, I'm going to talk about grief due to loved ones crossing, people we care about crossing over. And I think a really important distinction that I want to make is that just because I believe in the continuity of life, just because I've had experiences communicating with those in the other realms, it doesn't mean that I don't feel grief. And I think, I believe it's really important for us to embrace grief for a lot of different reasons. One is part of being human, right? And the other part is that uh, it's a way of honoring the relationship that we had with the person who has departed. I'm going to guess there's only a couple of you in here right now, from what I can see, but I'm going to guess that everyone in here has experienced grief, has experienced loss in their lives. And maybe had difficulty with it. Because a lot of times, even when we're grieving, we feel like, oh, let me get myself out of this. Or even community around us will, because they're uncomfortable with grief, they want us to get over ours, right? They might say, well, now, once things get settled, you'll have this service. And I've had people say this to me. And then you can move on, right? And I find it somewhat humorous when people say that, as though there's a little timeline, right? For like, okay, the person died, cry, service is over, stop crying, move on with your life. How can you move on with your life when something fundamental has changed forever, right? If suddenly I'm sitting here on this chair and someone comes up behind me and plunks it out from underneath me, not only am I going to hit the floor, I'm going to hurt my glutes, and I'm going to be like, number one, you won't be able to see me because I'll be so low. It's hard enough to see me now. So something has changed, right? And so my adapting, my experience, all of those things change. I have had quite a bit of loss in the last 5 years of really significant people in my life. Um, 3 siblings, really good friends who were like brothers to me. Obviously working in addictions as well. I've lost people there. And it's so vitally important, I believe, to honor our feelings. And sometimes, the other thing is sometimes people will say, I don't think that they're grieving yet. They really need to grieve. Grief doesn't always mean that we're crying right away. Part of that grief could be closing it off, shutting down, right? Trying to not look at it right away. Even that's a part of grieving. Grieving is, I believe that grieving is a lifelong process. It just looks different over time. We think of grief as grief stricken, right? Broken down, on our knees, unable to function at all. And listen, I've been through that in some of my grief before. And grief has many different expressions. And I'm not going to go through the 5 stages of grief because I think that limits grief too. Nothing against the writer or anyone that subscribes to that philosophy. But I think that we learn how to walk with grief. We learn how to walk with it, how to carry it forward with us over time. If you look at even someone who, crossed, so I was talking about the last 5 years, I've lost a lot of people, right? Prior to that, I'm looking over here because my ancestral altar is over there. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Prior to that, I lost other people, my mom, my dad, someone I loved very deeply, my daughter's father, and my eldest sister, people who were like parents to me, all of that, right? So there are times when it could be, like my mother died, entered the spirit realm like 2005, okay? So 21 years ago. And I didn't go through deep painful grief when she died, or the expression of that, not because I didn't love her, but because I spent time with her before she passed, and I felt like, um, I just felt it, right? I don't know how to explain that, but there were times where anniversaries of her death hit me way harder, like almost like, wow, this just happened yesterday. Because as we live our lives, every moment is different when that person we loved is no longer there. Now, I may not have lived close to my mother, I may not have talked to her every day on the phone, but there are still times when I think, I wish I could share this with my mother, right? Now, we're going to talk about the fact that I can and that you can, with your people, but there's a very real loss in the physicality of the people that we lose, right? So, and again, as someone who's a spiritualist minister, as someone who's been a psychic medium for 30 years now, who teaches this, who does this, I don't do it as much day in and day out anymore, not professionally anyway. In my personal life, it's kind of day in and day out. However, that connection that I have, it doesn't change the fact that sometimes I miss that physical vehicle of the being. I miss being able to go over and hug my mother, or being able to go and sit across the table from my sister and have a cup of coffee with her, right? So it's grief is, and here's the other thing I want to say about it. We don't have to move on. There is no getting over. There's walking through, right? And grief is also such an intimate thing, isn't it? That it's that place where even if we're walking around feeling part dead, we feel alive, right? It's in those moments, those deep, dark moments, where we can remember the sanctity of life, the sanctity of relationships with people, the ways that maybe we don't live fully, the ways in which maybe we don't take the risks we want to take, right? If you, when I was working in hospice, and I would have, and people that were able to be verbal and communicative, and you'll read about this, you hear about it, no one's laying in their deathbed saying, I wish I did the dishes, or I wish that I don't know, make something up. What they're thinking about is the moments in life, the risks, the things that they were so afraid to try. And when we get to death's doorway, it's like, well, what the hell was I afraid of? Because either way, I'm going out. I'm going out of this world at some point. So, I wish, right? These are the things I've heard. I wish I had lived more. I wish I had loved more. I wish I had forgiven more. I wish I hadn't held on to grudges that now seem ridiculous compared to this bigger scheme of life. Has anyone in here watching, joining me, ever sat with someone as they passed? And do you want to share if you have? Whether it's, person or nature spirit, meaning animal spirit, because I consider them to be nature as well. And what was that like for you? What was it like to be? I'm going to tell you, and I'll wait to hear from you guys, but I want to tell you something. I don't like feeling sad. Who does, right? I don't like it. When one can escort someone to the other side or be a witness to them being born into the ancestral realms. There is nothing I have ever experienced in this world that is so beautiful. Never. Now, it might have been painful too, but in the moment, in that moment of it, there's I'll give you a description. I can remember sitting in the room. I think it might have been with my mom. I don't remember. But sitting in the room, and all of a sudden, there's a kind of a quiet that comes across the room, more quiet than it was in the room. There's a peacefulness that comes in, and for me, I experienced a changing in colors in the room. There was this like rose colored hue that it was almost like if someone just sort of draped something that I could see through, right, with that hue in the room. And and of course I've also seen other people coming to greet them, but there's this I don't know how to describe it. It's just beautiful. There are very few peaceful moments, and these are some of them, even though it may be difficult afterward. So let me just see what Sonam says here. Her cat family, Emma, Charlie. Charlie died at home. Mom died when you were 19. Grandma Josie died when you were 38. And your brother Ricky died. Oh, I'm sorry to hear about all of them, and I'm definitely sorry to hear about Ricky. It's difficult to go through. So even though I'm talking about the experience of death being beautiful, it doesn't mean that there's not grief. And Mrs. Chantilly says, yes, a friend's mom. And so it's these are the times where words fail the experience, right? And we all have different experiences like that, where we try to explain something to someone and you feel like you just can't really articulate it well enough for them to have the feel of it, right? You were alone with your mom when she died. I asked to be with her. There were beautiful elements. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? It's like, and in those moments, like afterward, you might go through, right? But in those moments, some of those elements, like they stand, at least for me, they stand out above and beyond, right? I had someone I loved deeply, deeply, deeply. I was with him the last couple of months of his life. I was not there the moment that he died. But I was there the last couple of moments of his life, and the day that he died, I was there with him, and it was beautiful. He wanted to take a shower. Now he could barely walk. He couldn't. He was dying. And at first I'm like, I mean, is this a good idea? And then I'm thinking, well, what the hell's worse that's going to happen, right? So I take him into the shower, and he can't stand up. I'm trying to get him to sit, but he doesn't want to. He grabs me instead and puts his arms around my neck. So I'm fully clothed in this shower in the hospital, in the nursing home. He was on hospice in the nursing home, and it was really hot, but it was like, I don't know, it was like cleansing stuff off of him, right? And being able to be a part of that. And then when he was done, he wanted to sit in the chair. So he sat in the chair right outside of the shower. And it was so hot in there, and he wanted to keep the shower going, and he couldn't speak, but he could communicate with me just through, and we could communicate well with our minds. So I just sat on the floor of the bathroom. And I remember saying in my mind, not to him because he couldn't speak anyway, I said, are you ready? And I'm just sitting there like this, like in the bathroom like this, talking from my mind. And he lifts his head up and he shakes yes. And he just smiles at me. And we're in there for quite a while. It was like a sweat lodge purification ceremony, to be honest. So then we got him back out. We got him dried off and dressed. And I'm saying we, but me. Got him into bed. And then his family had come and they said, why don't you go home and take a break? And I did. And actually on my break was when he passed. But I was like, okay, I'm just going to lean back. I'm going to rest my eyes for a minute. I'm going to wait for my daughter to fall asleep. I was at my sister's with her so I could leave her there. And as I leaned back, I felt him put his arms around me and say, it's time. And I was like, really? So soon? And he was like, yeah. So it was like kind of this. And then 10 minutes later, I got a phone call. Julie, come. So even if we're not in the room, we can still have that experience. I had that experience. Well, I was in the room with my daughter's father when he died, but like a few nights before that, he came to me at night and told me that he was going to be leaving. Sisters, same thing. So even that, and I have a very good friend whose mom was actively dying. And we were at the East Coast Village and we went to the ancestor's house. He asked me to go with him there. And basically, we spoke to the ancestors and it was beautiful. It was beautiful because I was able to witness for him. I watched her walk through that veil and be received by her ancestors and loved ones over there. And he noted the time when I told him. And then he got a phone call and he asked what time, and it was spot on, right? So I'm not saying this to say, oh, aren't I great? No, I'm saying it to say there are so many different ways that we can be a part of that process if we want to. Some people don't want to. And it's beautiful. So Mrs. Chantilly, you were saying, if you're still in here, you were saying a friend's mom. You were there when your friend's mom died, or is that what you were saying? Or I'm not sure. I'll wait. Sonam, do you want to say anything about the beautiful elements of when your mom passed? I'll tell you another quick story while I'm waiting to see if you guys want to say more. I was with one of my best friends growing up, and her mom was dying. And so I was there with them, the whole family. And she was actively dying, and we were just waiting, and we were sitting over, like on the couches, just whispering, chatting or whatever. And then that silence came into the room, and she passed. And right after that, she was like standing behind. I had the experience of her standing behind me. And she said, I won't say the person's name, so I'll say my daughter, that I will bring her a child, because my friend had been trying to get pregnant and she couldn't. So I waited. I didn't tell her right then, right? But it was actually later that day. I said, listen, by the way, your mom wants you to know that she's going to help bring a child into you. And she's like, and she was like, okay. And I think she was trying to be polite to me. And of course, within a year, she was pregnant. And she said to me, like, I thought you were nuts. I got to be honest. I'm like, what is she even talking about? So I say this to say that not only can we be part of that process, but also our ancestors, our loved ones, do stay involved in our lives, even when we don't know that they are. You walked in the snow to the hospital. You remember the steps. Yes. It's like time freezes, right, Sana? It's like everything just freezes. And there's a stillness. There's a, um, I've had this experience with other things in life, but it's like, you know how they say that time doesn't exist, but we just have the experience of it? It's like that, right? It's like time literally feels like it's standing still. And we're just in this kind of space or spaciousness, maybe. Now, again, right? It may not feel good going through it, but it's still an experience, at least in my experience, that can't be touched or matched by anything else. Um, because of that stillness and that spaciousness, you know, the person that I was talking about earlier, this person I love deeply, when he was on hospice, and they came in and said, "Look," or maybe it was before he went on. His family waited a while to put him on hospice. They said, "You got about 2 weeks max," and and so shortly after that, there was a moment he wanted to get up. He wanted to go to the window. We're in the hospital at the time. So he's looking out the window onto the main street. We're at St. Peter's Hospital. And he was just looking through the shades. And I was like seeing it through his eyes almost, like, and everything stopped. Everything was still. It was like these frozen snapshots of time. And I said, you had a pretty good run, buddy. You did a lot of things, and you lived fully, even though this sucks. And he shook his head, yes. And then again, it was like in that moment, I was just in that space with him. It's almost like looking into a snow globe or something, right? Where you're just looking at the scenery or something like that. So yes, so I do believe I'm talking a lot about the beauty of death or the experience of death, and I did want to touch on, also the importance of acknowledging our grief and allowing it to be there and not trying to change it for anyone else's comfort. Um, Several times, especially after this passing of that loved one of mine, where people would come up to me and say, "Hey, Julie, doing better?" And when they would say it, they would shake their head yes, like, "Doing better?" And their eyes would get bigger, and it was more or less they were saying, like, "Oh my God, please say you're doing better." Now, and this isn't to insult them, but because I don't know what to do, right? So what do we do? What do we do with our own grief? Do we do with the grief of others? Um, I find that just sitting there is good. I find that asking them, like, how can I best help right now? Do you want me to just sit with you? Do you want to talk? Do you want me to hold you? Right? So, all these different sort of ways that we can do that with people. And not try to get them through it, not try to heal them from it. Because again, grief is a process, it is a journey. And I believe that through grief, that through tears, even, that opens up the roadway to the ancestral realms. Case in point, I already told you guys, and any of you that do know me, I've got an ancestral altar. It's getting pretty full. And those who I immediately cried for, cried with, talked to, right? Even when I was mad at them, cursing them out, right? So it's almost like sometimes people think if someone dies, we have to be like so nice about it. No, I curse people out. Like, what the hell, man? You left me? What are you thinking? Why? Right? Or I might cry, or I might whatever. When I've allowed myself to do that, I have faster access to them. The last few years, so two years ago this month, my sister Beth passed, and it was all in the mix of a lot of passings. And I did her service. I felt sad. I felt sad at the hospital, but I didn't really let myself grieve. And although she would come to me sometimes or come in dream time mostly, my relationship with her on the other side isn't as strong as it is with some of the others, even though Beth and I were very, very close. The last 10 years or so, we didn't spend that much time together, but we were very close for a long time in our lives. And I believe that my access to her is limited because I didn't let it all the way in. Now, lately, I have been letting more of it in because I've been a little bit under the weather, and so that wears down my defenses, and I've been home a lot more. So, stationed in front of the ancestral altar. So I'm starting to create that with her now. Right? So how do we do that? How do we carry that grief, acknowledge the loss, and be able to continue a relationship with them? The relationship is different. Of course, it will be different because they're not here physically. But it doesn't mean that the relationship ends. It just transforms into something else. And for me, one of the ways of doing that is by having the ancestral altar. A lot of times people will say, oh yeah, no, I have pictures of my loved one up everywhere. And that's great. Have that. And I suggest that you also have a special place where their photo is, and maybe it's photos of others who've passed, where you can sit with them, where you can make offerings to them, whether it's coffee, tea, spirit itself. I've got over here my brother, Malidoma. I get him cigars sometimes. And different things. I give my mother cigarettes because she was a smoker. If I make certain foods, sometimes I'll bring them to them, especially some of their favorite foods or something my mom used to make a lot. Candy, I give them candy, different things like that. And I'll get like their favorite candy, like this one liked Snickers, this one liked Milky Ways. And it's a way to feed and nurture that relationship, right? When I first started doing this, it was more of a portable thing because I was just in an environment where people were like, what are you doing? So I had this little thing and I'd pull my little board out, I'd set it all up in when I was by myself, and I would do it that way. But now, yeah, I will never not have an ancestral altar because this is the place that I come to. It's the place that I acknowledge every day when I walk in from work, every morning before I leave for work. I acknowledge because these people are the people that molded me, good, bad, or indifferent. I, as I am right now, would not exist as this person without nary a one of them. They crafted some of the experiences in my life, which then in turn cultivated some of who I am today. And so even if you're not sure about, does life continue on after the change called death? It does, by the way. But they live on in us. They are a part of us, right? If you think about that, and not just our mother, our father, or our grandparents, right? But our friends, the influence they had on us, our lovers, right? The things that we learned in those relationships, um, and even our ancestors that we don't know, because a part of them lived on in the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. So even they, I could go back 18 generations, and some piece of that 18th, those 18th great grandparents created who I am today. Um, any questions? And my throat's getting sore, so I'm gonna, because I'm not used to talking this much lately. Questions, comments? Do you guys have ancestral altars? What are your practices? What do you do? How do you honor your loved ones? And how do you honor yourself and your own grief? I am waiting. Don't be shy. I will say, while I'm waiting, there is such beauty in continuing those relationships. And sometimes some of those people are just as annoying to me as they were when they were here. Oh, yeah, you don't have any picture of your mom. Sonam, what about like just something that would represent your mom? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, something that reminds you of her or represents a composite of who she was as a person or something like that, you know? Because, like, I don't have pictures of all of my people either. I mean, my main people I do. But, like some of my ancestors that I had to kind of work through some shit with, to be honest with you, I have things that represent them. And this is also the beauty of that. She liked the mustard seed of the Bible. Put a little bowl of mustard seeds on an altar. You know? That's one way, so that whenever you go to it, you remember that was a part of her. Right? That faith is like a mustard seed. And that can help to kind of clear the road, if you will, to get there. Sweep the road. Sweep the stuff out of the way so that you can have a more direct line to her. Now, I do want to warn you, my friends, if you're looking for direct lines. Okay, she liked to play bingo. There you go. You can have something on there, or occasionally you can bring her some bingo chips and throw them right on the altar and be like, "Here, Mom," right? So it's like, and when we do it in a way, for me, I mean, sometimes I go there very reverently, but this isn't like a church thing where it's like it's got to be like all quiet, la la la. Oh yeah, you can take a picture of a military stone. There you go. Good idea, Sonal. So I go up and I'm just like, "Hey, what's up, peeps?" And sometimes I might be like, And you know what? You're a jerk because you left, right? Who knows? But other times, most times, if I'm approaching the altar, I am, bringing them something, or sharing something, or saying something, or listening for something. And as I was saying, sometimes they're a pain in my ass. My mother was notorious for telling me what to do because she's a mother. And she was equally as notorious for telling me what to do when she went into the ancestral realms, especially when it came to my siblings. Now, granted, I appreciate that because she basically let me know when something was really wrong or when they were going to die. Like, go see them now. Go see them. You know? So, and I'd just be walking through the house, and there she'd be up there like, Mother, what? No, I don't want to go anywhere. Right? Because I'm a baby like that. I like to stomp my feet still. I was the baby of the family. So, but she would then say, go, like before my sister Catherine died, she was like, a few months before, she was like, spend more time there, bring her things, let her know that she's important to you. She needs to know this. And I remember her even saying to me one time, are you here because mom told you I'm going to die or something? And I was like, I'm here because I love you. Because, I mean, you can't be like, yeah, by the way, she did. Right? So, yeah, with each of those things and each of those times, and even if it wasn't my mom, when my friend Archie died, the day before he died, I was on my way out to the cemetery to visit the grave of the person that I said I loved so deeply. And I was thinking so much about Archie because Archie sat in that cemetery with me when this person we went to the graveside for I don't even know how long. And I was thinking about that, about how he just held me. He just held me. And some people, because I like literally collapsed. I was being very dramatic, but I couldn't, my body just gave out. The grief was so deep. And I was probably exhausted too. But people were like, oh, get up, Julie, don't do it. And he was like, leave her alone. And he just put himself behind me and he just held me. And I was thinking about him so much. And I was like, oh, I should call him and maybe I'll see if he's around when I get done. Now, Archie wasn't a guy that was very spontaneous like that. And he often didn't answer the phone. So I decided, like, you know what? He's not going to answer anyway. And then by the time I hear back from him, it'll be too late. So I'll just give him a call tomorrow or the next day, check in, see how he's doing. And he died the next day, or that night, really, in his sleep. I don't know if they know the exact time. But yeah, so they will sometimes be annoying, just like in life. But I will say that I don't know how I would manage life without them. I don't know how I would find sometimes the strength, the fortitude, um, the drive, the passion for things if I didn't have them in my life. And the comfort, the comfort. The other night I was in excruciating pain and I was sitting on my couch, which is directly across from my ancestral altar. And I happened to look over and I, just like you see those little lanterns there on the little nature altar behind me, there's a lantern that's placed also on the ancestral altar. So they're on timers. So that had come on. And the face that lit up was my mother's. And I just started talking to her. And I started crying. And I was just like, oh my God. And I felt her come over to me. I felt her do the things she used to do, like pet my head when I was a little girl and I was sick and I was crying. And it felt really good to do it. And then I had this moment of judgment, like, oh my God, look at you acting like a little baby. You want your mommy. And I was like, yes, God damn it, I do. So it was, and I had her, right, in the way that I could. And again, that's because of that road that I cleared that comes from Here, you can't see it. I'm pointing to my heart and my solar plexus, and not just from my head of what I want. It's also what I walk within. I believe that they walk right beside us all the time. It's really just a different dimension, right? It's a different energy frequency. So we can't always see them, but sometimes they might lower their frequency, ours might raise, or the veil thins for whatever reason because they're trying hard to reach us. People have said before, like, well, how do you know it's real? And, I've asked myself that question. I mean, because of my experience, I guess, but at the end of the day, here's what I come to. And I address this actually in the book too, like, gee, is this real? Is this channeling real? And what I came to is, who cares? Who cares? Because I am living a more fruitful life than I did without it. I have more peace in my life than I did without it. I have more compassion for people than I did without it. So, yeah. One leg spirit, one leg. Uh-oh. I think I'm losing. Oh, it told me my connection was unstable, but it looks like it's back. I don't know if I glitched out on you guys. So now I was inquiring about your statement in chat. I'm going to get ready to end, but I want to read this. You probably all heard it before, but I do want to read it. I have to make it bigger. Maybe. All right. Okay. So my voice is getting tired. It's been going through a lot lately. So I'm going to get ready to close out, but I do want to share this poem with you guys that you've probably all heard before, but I think it's a good way to close this out. It was first printed in 1934. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am the thousand winds that blow. I am the diamond glints in snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. As you awake with morning's hush, I am the swift upflinging rush of quiet birds in circling flight. I am the day transcending night. Do not stand by my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die. Yeah, so thank you all so much for joining me. I'll be here next week. If you have thoughts about a topic for next week, you can send them to me. You can either DM me on Facebook or you can send to mediumjuliemacdonald@gmail.com. And thanks for hanging out with me and for your input. And I hope to see you guys soon.